being this like 2 months ago, which is where I met Emra. And he was like, oh, you should come here. What's your film meetup? Last one. But yeah, I would love to try to get involved to the extent I would like to have time for. Just because I love that. I really think like the way that everybody else is doing it. It's nothing wrong with these other meetings.
Okay, 2 minutes, no presentation.
Because I'm working with someone for next week actually. There's an concept, it's a really great platform, honestly, but I was like, so like sponsors are gonna, talk for a couple minutes and do a demo. But I was like, they should talk, telling the story, talk about
But also, I was also talking about logistically, there needs to be some sort of sustainable model for the
I think we might get
Right, yeah. Because it's like, I would love to, I was talking to her about in my company sponsor, it's like, if our company's target audience is ours is more like schools and Microsoft.
I don't know, so many people come to our meetups or anyways to attend and looking for jobs.
It's very specific. It's not
Hi Dan, how are you? Brennan.
Good, Brennan, nice to meet you. Okay, 1 minute. Grab a seat and finish up our conversations. Thank you very much.
I'm going to send you that room tonight or tomorrow, just kind of time, so
we might accidentally.
I think I'd like to be on the side of your personal message. Is that okay?
Sure.
I put everyone's LinkedIn, but I link to their Instagram or their website.
All right. That is on time. 7:00 is what my clock is saying. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, so everyone in the back can grab a seat if you guys want. Welcome to NYVR, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for bearing with us with going downstairs first and then coming up, but that worked out great. So I am DJ Smith. I'm the organizer of NYVR. Our mission statement is simply to grow the XR community in New York City. Been doing it since 2013, and I'm super happy to be back doing in-person events on a regular basis. So thank you to everyone. Okay, so go through a little bit of housekeeping stuff, and then we'll get right into the speakers. So first off, thanks to our sponsor, the Glimpse Group, for providing the space. Laurent, our CEO, is right over here. Second, thank you to all of our volunteers. Anthony and Jean are kind of newly officially appointed and have been a huge help, and I think are going to give us a lot of momentum for future events. No, I
have shirts, it doesn't count. You have to give them some shirts.
I am the only one with this shirt. But
Where's my t-shirt, DJ?
I think I need to expand.
If they're on the list, they get a shirt.
That's right. And then Jake and Jordan are always there, and actually Pia was helping out too. So the list goes on and on. So thank you very much. Okay, so I'm curious, how many people are here for the first time? If you can raise your hands. Brennan. Welcome. Awesome. So welcome to NYVR, and definitely network around and make the most out of the evening. One of the things that I've done pretty pre-COVID, we had a really strong program for this. It's called the NYVR Collaboration Group, and it was really for people that were looking to get into the XR industry and just couldn't really figure out a way to start. So what I do is, if somebody is interested in being part of the collaboration group, I take your information and what your skill set is, and I'll pair you off with 2 or 3 different people with complementary skills. So I might take a 3D artist with a project manager and a Unity developer and send them off on a mission. It was really successful, and some of those groups actually ended up becoming companies, and it was really amazing. So if anybody falls into that bucket, is interested, just come up afterwards, and I'll put you on the list and hopefully find you some folks to work on. Second thing is, as we're getting more and more back into in-person events, if anybody sees speakers, hears of startups, let me know. I would love to get connected to them and fill out our program. Like I said, we're here really to build a community and build awareness. So whatever you're working on, I'd love to hear about what people are doing. And one little kind of piece to this is NYVR. I think VR is my true passion, but I am actually pretty excited about MR. And I think wearable tech in general is really where it's at for me. So anything within wearable tech. A couple of shout outs. So Marta, is Marta here? I don't know if Marta. Oh, there she is. Cool. So Marta has an amazing program. She's actually going to be presenting it at a future event, and it's with NASA. But you're going to stick around afterwards in case people have questions.
After they were on 8.
Okay, all right. So hit up Marta to learn about the program, and then come back to the next event, or I think in March we have you lined up. So in March we'll have the outcome of actually this program, which I'm super excited to hear about. Second thing is longtime NYVR friend Larry Confino. He's actually going to be presenting, I believe, in January, but he has a world premiere of an immersive documentary. So check this out. And then Peter couldn't be here, but this is actually a really cool free program that's being offered by 8th Wall. It's a workshop. The information is on the QR code, and it's November 18th. So definitely check out this program, this workshop. And then finally, another good NYVR friend from way back, Bob Fine. He organizes the Virtual Reality Day, which is on November 18th, and take a look at Virtual Reality Day to see other complementary programs and events that are actually happening. Okay, on to the presenters. So we have an amazing lineup of presenters. I'm really actually, I don't have a favorite. So I'm equally excited about every one of these. So let's get right into it. Alon, come on up. Oh, one more thing. This is super cool. We're going to try and do something new. I have a form for Q&A. So if any questions pop up during the presentation, put them into the form, and at the end I'm going to have everyone come up on stage, and I'll kind of curate the questions for the group. And this QR code is going to pop up at the end of each presentation. So we'll see how it works, no promises. All right, let's get on to the presentations.
How's it going, everyone? Well, I definitely have a favorite speaker. It's not me, it's some other really cool people. Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you for the Glimpse Group for hosting us. Really, really excited to be here. I'm Alon from Echo 3D. We are a cloud solution for 3D asset management. I see some really cool familiar faces in the crowd, so really good to be here. So let's start. As mentioned, a cloud platform for 3D asset management. We are able to store and stream 3D models from the cloud to game engines like Unity, Unreal, mobile devices, web browsers, anywhere in the world. I'm going to just say hello. I do a Master in Computer Science at Columbia University, undergrad in Computer Science and Engineering. So a certified nerd and a big believer in this kind of intersection of cloud and 3D. And our company's been around for 5 years now. We have over 60,000 developers on our platform who are using our tech to build applications, and did some partnership with one of the most amazing companies out there. But really kind of the cool thing that we're seeing today is this trend that we have 3D content everywhere. We're seeing it in games like Fortnite, Roblox. We're seeing it in AR, VR applications like Snapchat, or kind of try before you buy experiences for e-commerce. And it's really, really cool to see this kind of proliferation of 3D content and how easy it is to suddenly create and use 3D content. But we're seeing this problem, it's really hard to build applications. It's not as simple, even if you know how to create content. How do I bring it to a device? How do I change it in my app? How can I basically use that content for my benefit? And if you think about this problem was solved in 2D. You personally don't need to be a web developer to update a blog post. You upload an image or video, suddenly that appears in web and mobile. And if I'm in New York and you're in Chicago and if we're watching an episode on Netflix, we automatically get the best streaming experience. So we kind of translated these concepts into 3D. Our software allows you to drag and drop 3D models and get the best 3D streaming experience. And what's really interesting is this kind of bidirectional connection between content and location that we don't have in 3D and 2D. If you think about it, if you open some video in New York or Chicago, it should be the same thing. But in 3D, if you're building something like Pokemon Go, it might be the case that I open an app in New York, I see the Empire State Building. I open the same app in San Francisco, I see the Golden Gate Bridge. So you have to really be in control of that content. And the content is also so different. Some of you probably know, there's all these file formats. iOS uses USDZ, web uses GLB. How do you kind of manage that? So if you upload something to Echo, we convert all the files to all the other file formats, and you can automatically use that anywhere you want. And you can also upload really, really large files. Imagine we have a 3D digital twin for this room that's like 5 megabytes large. I want to bring it to my phone like 5 seconds, and that buffer only has like 5 megabytes. So our software will convert that file to like a smaller file and allow you to stream it to your device really, really easily. So these are some kind of like the insights. You're like, why do you need a 3D cloud? Why do you need like a kind of change in perception of what cloud solutions could provide for 3D? So this is the way we've built. We have a free trial that I definitely recommend that you register for. It's totally free. You get access to all the features for like a week. But basically, you can kind of use our software to build applications, either if you're already using something established, like Unity or Unreal, or if you want to just deploy a really quick web app. Super, super easy. One of the things that we love to support is kind of the reduction of time to hello world, like how easy it is to build an app and kind of deploy content immediately. And at the end, we'll show you something cool that will stream something from our cloud to everyone's phones. Super, super simple. This is kind of how our platform works. You have this kind of console that you can control and then easily stream from the cloud to devices. The cool thing of having this kind of remote control for all these assets also means that you can change things really rapidly. So imagine that Christmas is coming up and you have this application in 3D and you want to retexture all your assets to have a Christmas theme. You can do that on the cloud on Echo, and then that will automatically propagate to all the applications that you have. And you get the analytics and the kind of understanding of what content is performing better and how that works. So developers can basically choose any platform out there, any content creation, SDK or whatnot. Content creators need no technical skills. We have kind of this really cool dashboard for content management, and then our software just builds, delivers, and stores all that kind of content on the cloud, and you can kind of deliver it anywhere. If it's AR, VR, 3D, you name it. That means that if you're building an app, look at all these kind of really cool apps that exist in the App Store today. They're really large and they're really hard to update. With our tech, all these apps become super, super small because the content isn't there anymore. And you kind of can bring that in from the cloud and kind of change things remotely and update things really, really easily. Developers are at the same time and money. Content creators need no technical skills. And the companies we work with these days are at enterprise level are basically able to instantiate content and send it all over the world and have team members across the globe to basically collaborate on the same 3D assets. And kind of as a team understand like who's in control of what and kind of give access to different types of content. We've helped build some really, really cool applications and allowed a lot of people to basically create really cool experiences in AR, 3D, VR. But basically the point is, again, to have this kind of cloud asset management system that allows you to remotely decide what goes to your application and how you kind of change that remotely. As I mentioned, we're seeing like all these really cool developers joining our platform every single week. And we're seeing amazing, amazing use cases from healthcare and gaming and data visualization and retail and e-commerce and you name it. And I think a lot of people here, if you're building on something and you're kind of new to the world of 3D, try to think of how can I bring 3D into my industry? Like, what is the new thing that I kind of create? And obviously we support all the kind of major game engines, stuff like that most people use. Some vanity metrics, we won a bunch of awards, raised over $9.5 million in VC funding from really amazing investors. The top one being Qualcomm Ventures, who are powering any VR headsets that you're using these days, like their chips are in there. And we're there for any kind of cool event, so definitely kind of say hello if you see some of our team members like myself, or Megan and Angela right here, say hello from our team. So that's some plans in the audience. And yeah, so just make sure to register, check out our product, love any feedback. And yeah, thank you so much again, DJ, for the invite. And thanks to you all for this right now, it will stream the Empire State Building to your phones. You don't have to install anything, just kind of stream it from the cloud to your device.
Awesome, thank you. Hit that up. All right. And if you have questions, put it into here. I'll gather them. And now we're going to go to our next presenter, Nastaran. Come on up.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Give us 2 seconds. We're just going to switch to... This one, right? Nope, no. Where did this? We should. All right, hold on. I'm not sure where. Give us 2 seconds.
No pressure. Should I get up and sing or?
We're going to download it super quick.
I mean, otherwise I can put it out in videos, but I do love the parts.
We want the cool parts.
Yeah. We'll get it super quick. Yeah, it was. Should be good, right? I'm not sure how to do that.
Running presentation mode. Bottom.
No, it's hiding.
No, it's not.
No, no. It's just sharing the screen.
Yeah, can it be extended? Oh, it's just sharing.
It's just sharing the screen. Yeah.
Can I reshare this?
No, not sure if you do that. Yeah. Go.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, great. Hi everyone. Thanks for being patient. I'm very excited to give this talk. My name is Nastaran. I am doing my PhD in cognitive neuroscience at NYVR right now. But I have also done work on effects of exposure to virtual environments, on physiological measures and cognitive function. Kind of work that's been done in Harvard previously, and then some work on navigation and eye movements in virtual reality, which was done mainly at NYU. But today I will be talking about a virtual reality training system for getting desensitized to motion system that I have under development. So unless you're one of the lucky few, you've definitely felt it. You're going for like a beautiful sunny day on a boat, or you're driving on a beautiful winding mountain when it hits you. And you are getting motion sick, which starts with a little bit of yawning in the beginning, tiredness, dizziness, and then headache, drowsiness, and then at worst case, nausea and vomiting. And people in VR are not strangers to motion sickness. Camera motion in VR movies, long hours in working environments, and movement through joystick on screens and in VR, they can all lead to motion sickness. And people have worked hard on inventing improving solutions within VR to mitigate this problem.
like teleportation rather than moving with joysticks, increased frame rates, better positional tracking. They can all reduce the sensation of motion sickness in VR. But the question is that whether you can use VR to reduce motion sickness in the real world. And to answer this, we have to first ask, when does motion sickness happen? And this is most widely accepted to be because of mismatch between two types of input into the brain. So for instance, when seen images and perceived head movements of a person don't match up, the result is a perception of motion sickness. And there are some solutions for this problem already available. There are definitely pharmaceutical solutions, but all of them have temporary effects and need to be taken prior to the exposure, which is hard to predict. And they also have very strong side effects that are not very pleasant, such as drowsiness, blurred vision, disorientation, and dry mouth. And there are some other non-pharmaceutical solutions as well, but most have not proven very effective, like these pressure point wristbands, or there's a limit to how much of them you can just take in one sitting, like the ginger candy, or you'd have to be paid quite handsomely to be seen wearing them in public, like these glasses. So a longer lasting option than these would be to train to get desensitized to situations that cause motion sickness. And, but the question is that, will it really work? The short answer is that yes. It's known to be true, and most people feel motion sick for a few days after getting on a ship, going to space, or early in their careers as race car drivers. But most of them get desensitized after a few days on a ship, or in zero gravity, or further along their race car driving careers. So it's believed that gradually increasing exposure to this kind of stimuli works best for leading to this kind of desensitization. That's not true for everyone, though. In 1981, Senator Jane Garn, who used to be a fighter pilot with extensive flying experience, started asking to fly on the space shuttle because he was head of the Senate subcommittee that dealt with NASA. And in 1985, a space shuttle was launched from the Kennedy Space Center for a mission, along with which Garn was sent as a congressional observer. That didn't work very well because Garn got space sick, and more than anybody has ever gotten motion sick in space, and it lasted the entire duration of the mission. And it is said that during the 4 miserable shuttle flights, he threw up 100 times. It's true. And then NASA started jokingly creating this scale of Garn scale to measure reaction to space. 1 Garn is the most that can anybody get sick, and a 10th of a Garn is And as a matter of fact, astronauts have extensive training on land to become desensitized to this kind of stimuli mismatch, which may lead to motion sickness. And they may train in motion simulators like the one on the bottom left, which is called the Kraken, which very much fits it. Or they might, work in flight simulators that replicates the kind of accelerations that they might be facing, or they might go on flights, on parabolic flights, to experience bouts of micro and hypergravity. And there are also other types of custom-created treatments, but they are not scalable, and they're usually done for specific diseases. Also some biofeedback solutions, and the logic is that motion sickness creates symptoms that people can learn to control using biofeedback. But a study has found that even though people can control measures such as their heart rate or skin temperature through biofeedback training, that doesn't change their perception of motion sickness when they are in those situations. So what is the alternative? Now, modern VR is designed to match the visual motion seen by people to their physical motion. But this can also create visual motion equivalent to any kind of physical motion that is not really happening. And because of this, we can induce as much visual spatial incongruence in any motion and direction that we wish. The virtual motion can be combined with any physical motion that the person may be initiating at that time that induces incongruence, which is ideal for training. And this feature is what we have used to generate an optimized training tool against motion sickness. And as you can see in this example from the training tool, it can induce any frequency of motion that is desired, whether slower or faster, with any desired amplitude of motion. And this is a sample training session where a user is trying to get desensitized to forward-backward motion. The tool can also create combinations of movements and rotations, similar to ones that are experienced in real motion sickness-inducing environments, like this boat ride. And the program also allows for adjustment of the frequency and amplitude of the movement through the course of one exposure. So you can, if you're getting too much motion sick, you can reduce the intensity of your stimuli. So natural sensory incongruence comes in different forms. A bumpy car ride with forward motion and high frequency is different from driving a smooth winding road which has forward motion combined with lower frequency and medium amplitude yaw. And also, riding a kayak in a rough river differ from a roller coaster ride in an amusement park. Every and each one of these combinations can be induced with VR. So how does this compare to the instance, for instance, to the cracking? The range of motion is 360, which is maximal for both. The translational range is unlimited for VR, but it is 33 feet for the cracking. The cracking can induce vestibular manipulation, which VR can't, but VR can have better individual customization and is way more accessible than the cracking. But can we do even better than that? And to answer this, we have to go back to the reason we get motion sick. This little organ in your inner ear detects your head movements. These sensations are precise, so they usually match other sensations like vision. When there is mismatch, usually the brain experiences as a symptom of sickness. For example, when you have flu or you have consumed alcohol, the density of your inner ear fluid changes, and that causes incongruence. Then when the brain encounters such a mismatch, for instance, in a moving boat, it mistakes it for such symptoms and triggers your rest and recovery system or parasympathetic nervous system. Right? And that is why every time your brain detects this kind of incongruence, it tries to detect whether it is sick and needs to activate the rest and recover, or whether it's fine and it just can go about its own functions. And in this sense, motion sickness becomes a classification problem. Like, imagine every time your brain detects a sensory conflict, it either decides that it is fine, the green dots, or it is sick, the red dots. And to make things easier, let's imagine it's on one dimension only. Right? So, it may have a fuzzy threshold. Sorry. Okay, so that kind of like line might have a fuzzy threshold, and anything beyond that has higher chance of being labeled as giving you motion sickness. Now, if we start training by introducing a bunch of sensory conflicts beyond this threshold, these experiences are going to be labeled by the brain. Most of them will cause motion sickness and be labeled red, which will push this fuzzy boundary towards less tolerance, which we don't want. On the other hand, if we introduce these training points with less sensory conflict than boundary, they're less likely to induce motion sickness, adding to the green labeled observations and pushing the boundary more toward more tolerance. Okay. So if a normal course of training is just by showing stimuli to the trainee, and a customized version can let the user choose environments and movement types through a user interface, a better option would be to let users adjust the intensity of the stimuli during training to keep it below threshold of motion sickness, And this is going to make that automatic. So can we do even better than that? Yes. So galvanic skin response is a measure of arousal that is collected through wearable sensors and has been found to correlate very well with the sensation of feeling motion sick. So here you see an example of rise in the level of felt motion sickness over here. That was induced by being exposed to a car ride that was really jarring. And as people feel more motion sick, you see the level of the GSR measure also rising up. So you can kind of tell by that measure whether people are feeling motion sick or not. So the system is redesigned to include this automatic intensity adjustment with the use of GSR data and improving this user stimuli feedback loop. So an example of how this works can be seen in this diagram, where a session starts with a period of baseline GSR calculation with no sensory mismatch. The algorithm collects enough data and understands the baseline and puts basically a threshold of exposure, and it will introduce gradually increasing intensity of sensory mismatch and monitor the tonic GSR at the same time, and it will reduce the intensity once that threshold is being reached. So here you see an example of such a dynamic kind of like feedback loop from the prototype, where the stimuli is matching the feedback loop scenario from the animated diagram. And this allows us to have a training program that adapts real time to each user for optimized training. And yeah, it's useful to people who have to perform in conditions that cause this kind of mismatch, but it can also be helpful to the general public, where they wish to train to be able to enjoy everyday experiences better. And my next step is to validate how it affects people in longitudinal study in virtual reality and real world situations. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
All right, awesome.
DJ, you need to kind of sign up for this meeting.
I'm a little sensitive to
That's why we need to train you. Imagine the VR experiences you'll be able to experience.
All right, let me bring back our presentation. Here we go. Okay. I think you're going to be able to.
Hey, so my name is Joergen Geerds. While he so gracefully skips to all his lovely presentation that we just saw.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, thanks for the Glimpse Group to having us and making this event happen all the time.
Awesome. These are questions for Nastaran, and then we can get going.
Yep. So I've been here for a couple of years. We are a 360 video production company here based in New York. I've been doing 360 video for 12 years now. And I've seen motion sickness in my life. So I'm very familiar with this, but I have to say that the experiences that were built so far have not any reports of motion sickness from our customers, so far. Today we're going to talk about the Tuskegee Airmen. Directed and written by Oli Futschik, who's here up front, who's my lovely wife. And this being a 360 documentary, we incorporate the 360 world of things. The deployment of this project is through YouTube and Oculus TV and requires no app whatsoever. So we are a little bit agnostic to this. Theoretically, maybe we'll see it also on a large dome, and maybe this here in Vegas, who knows? The story takes us back to World War II. World War II saw sign up of black people to the armed services, and in the beginning they were relegated to menial tasks. And so trench digging, cooking, latrine service, whatever you could figure out, black people were signed up for this. Of course, you have a vast pool of incredible, talented, and motivated people, especially from the private aviation part, where black pilots were already common. In the military, they were not. Benjamin Davis, together with his dad, launched a program trying to get black pilots going. The Pentagon was extremely racist at that point and could not think about the method about how to integrate black officers with white enlisted people. That absolutely did not fly. So their solution was, okay, let's make a fighter group that is only consists of black people, and that was called the Tuskegee Airmen, and consisted of everything that you can consider in a support. So you have pilots, you have mechanics, you have engineers, you have nurses, doctors, and admin staff. Everybody was black in that program. So when people signed up, okay, a couple of flight instructors were white. Good.
And the commander.
And the program was built around Tuskegee in Alabama. So the school, the university down there, and the pilots came from all over the country. So lots of the people coming from the north were encountering segregation. For them, sometimes for the first time, people growing up in the south were used to this, but it was quite challenging. So it was a little culture shock for lots of the people that coming into the program, but they managed to through. This is a shot from Tuskegee University as it is, and where lots of the basic training actually happened down in Tuskegee. And this is also our camera that we're using for this project. There were two airfields down in Tuskegee where the main training happened, where the training planes were, and everything went well. The pilots then eventually were deployed to Africa after lots of backfighting with the Pentagon because the Pentagon didn't really know what to do. You have a fully trained group in Tuskegee. How many people? 1,000?
Well, first they had a squadron.
One squadron of people. And they're like, yeah, we don't want to deploy you. So they eventually came up, okay, we're going to deploy you over to Africa because you can't do anything there. There was still doctrine happening. That's a paper from World War II saying that black people cannot operate complex machinery, and that was still inherent in the military. Eventually, they were deployed pretty late in the war, in 1944, to a place in Italy called Ramitelli. And once they were in the Ramitelli, lots of the racial problems were not as inherent anymore, because the Italians opened, Italy was already partially liberated, and the Italians welcomed them. And around Ramitelli were 5 airfields. The British had an airfield down there, New Zealand had one there, and I forget who the other 2 were. So this is actually a shot of the flight headquarters, and the documentary takes us onto the original locations. So we were in the original locations in Tuskegee, and this is also the original locations in Italy, where they were actually working, were deployed, and through their missions, which took them all the way to Berlin. And their main missions was bomber escorts. During their deployment, they were the most successful escort group. And their leader had actually a little sticker on their plane where it says by request. And because they were the most requested escort group they had, even though the white bomber pilots had no idea they were escorted by black people. But whatever gets them home safely was working for them. In Ramitelli, we encountered also the local history people. This is Marco Altobelli. He's the local librarian, and he's working on a museum in Ramitelli, where they want to preserve the history of the Tuskegee Airmen, as well as coming up with some form of museum in the future. And they were like super graceful. The mayor of the city came with us, made sure that we never had to pay for gelato or espresso. And the last piece was what was very important for us for the story. We knew where the pilots were trained, we knew where they were deployed, but what was the famous plane that they actually were flying? And the famous plane was the Mustang P-51. And they got this plane when they were actually deployed in Italy. So this was very new, and this was a very powerful, agile plane that was very easy to fly. So the documentary takes us through the original stories from the veterans and how they perceived and what their story was. And flying in that plane was, of course, fun, so we had to actually take the 360 content up into the plane and had a pilot actually replicate a little bit what movements or what a mission would look like. And this was pretty interesting. This plane was never deployed to Italy. It was a trainer plane that was refurbished sometime in 2000 and was rescued from a scrapyard and restored back to flying operationally. And we had a chance to even fly in it as a guest on one route. Currently, we have only 2 of the pilots still alive. This is Harry Stewart, who's 99 years old now, in the blue jacket in the center. And he got the Bob Dole Award this year from the World War II Foundation for his work, and it was also interesting to hear more of his World War II stories and to bring this story alive. This is our 3rd World War II documentary for the World War II Foundation. First one was Omaha Beach and the D-Day experience. Second one was the Battle of the Bulge, and then the latest one is the Tuskegee Airmen. We're very proud to work with them and to bring history alive and try to tell the story that in the most original way. So we try to bring the documentary across as educational and historically correct. So we don't try to flavor this with heroic aspects of it, or trying to make war look heroic, which is not. War is a pretty awful thing, but unfortunately it happens all the time. Over the last 12 years, we've done tons of 360 video projects. Recently, we've worked with WOMA a lot, documenting some of their exhibits. If you remember, you probably have seen them in your stream. A couple of years ago, we did also the 360 video series for the Met. Some have seen it. On the entertainment space, I'm very proud to have directed Hamilton 360, which was fun. Or Disney on Broadway was a fun project as well, together with a whole bunch of more industrial projects, including rocket launches for the United Launch Alliance. And if you have any 360 video projects where you want to talk with us, you can find us online. We do have the demo over there afterwards for the demo, so thank you very much.
Joergen, the content is on Oculus TV?
Yes.
Awesome.
And YouTube.
Awesome. YouTube and Oculus TV, so check it out. Okay, any questions? Head up to the forum, and we'll bring up our last speaker, Mr. Michael Markman. Awesome. It's ShapesXR.
Hi everyone, my name is Michael Markman. I am a product designer at ShapesXR, where I design a design tool for designing XR apps. great. I love explaining that. It makes it really fun. One of the cool things is we actually use ShapesXR to design ShapesXR. Now, what is ShapesXR? It is an ideation, design, and prototyping platform specifically for making spatial content. So the reason ShapesXR exists is because creating 3D content for VR headsets is really difficult. And one of the biggest difficulties is how do you explain your ideas to developers? And so in the early days of XR, you had sketches, you would try to mock things up in like Blender, but at the end of the day, you were using 2D mediums to try to explain something that was inherently spatial. And so what would happen is you would give something to a developer, they would develop it, and then you would put on the headset and you're like, well, this is all wrong. Am I a terrible designer? Is the communication broken? And what would happen is either you would have to redevelop it, which takes a huge amount of time because developers are expensive, they work slowly, and it just, it's not how we build anything, right? Like architects don't build houses to realize that houses are good. And so at Shapes, we have a solution. So I kind of explained all this actually. Oh, actually, the other thing is it's very difficult to pitch your ideas, right? Like you're trying to explain to someone, especially in the early days of XR, you're like, oh, it's gonna be awesome. You're gonna be like immersed in it. You're gonna be in the experience. And like, I don't know what that means, right? But with Shapes, with our tool, you actually put them into VR, and you actually work in VR, right? You put on the headset, and you can actually design your experience in VR. So you get the scale correct. You get all of the sizing, the spacing, the text size, like everything is just right the first time. And you're able to put your client or your developer, whatever stakeholder, into your idea, and they get it. It just clicks, you know? So this is gonna be a little video of what Shapes actually looks like. Ooh, that's music. Listen to this on mute. So what's awesome is basically you can import 3D models, you can import them at the proper scale, and you're off to the races. I'm gonna turn this music off, that is loud. So, in Shapes you can create prototypes with interactivity. So this is something we built recently around the Apple Vision Pro. We support gaze and pinch interactions, right? So a lot of the interest we've been seeing is a lot of studios are like, hey, we want to try these concepts out, but Apple won't give us a headset. And we're like, that's okay, we got you. You can Shapes as a really easy, the beauty of working in XR isn't just that you're in XR, it's just that it also makes 3D really easy and intuitive. You're just, instead of clicking around and futzing with a 3D gizmo on a 2D screen, trying to get it into a position, you just grab it and you place it. And so there's the speed at which you're able to work in a VR, AR, XR headset is amazing. This is really cool. This is simulating a mixed reality experience in an actual forest. Anyway, how many of you know what Figma is? Show of hands. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so at the end of the day, people are still going to design 2D interfaces in Figma. That's something we realize just is reality of the world. But we have this really cool feature in Shapes where you can bring in your Figma frames, and then when you update your design in Figma, and then in Shapes, it'll sync. And this is amazing, right? Because now you're still designing 2D UIs, but you're able to immediately see what they look like in VR. And that is, it saves so much time. Your developers will love you for not having to put them through crazy iteration processes. This is our AR simulation mode. This is a really cool feature. So if you're designing experience with the HoloLens, any of the magic leaps, you're able to simulate the FOV in Shapes. And now this is the first version of our interactivity system, which is wonderful. It's basically a frame by frame, but then you can link interactions to take you to different frames. And so this is a little, it's a little shooter game prototype that our head of design made in Seattle. And now the most wonderful, that's me. The the last wonderful thing of Shapes is it's fully collaborative, right? So you and your entire team or anyone you're collaborating with can be in VR together. Not only that, it's also asynchronously collaborative, which is with this feature that we call hollow notes, where you can record your avatar as a note, as like a Princess Leia, like Obi-Wan, you're my only hope style note. Now finally, at the end of the day, we're all building stuff in Unity. I'm sure there's like 3 people here who are like, oh, why not use Unreal? It's fine, we all use Unity. Anyway, we have a Unity plugin that makes working with you developers can just pull in your latest design with 1 click. Yeah, I mean, that's, there we go. Yeah, that's what the pipeline looks like, right? You can import all your different 3D models, you can do all of your ideation, your wireframing, your sketching, and then it'll all export out to a GLTF if you're doing a WebXR thing, or a USDZ file for your AR concepts, or Unity. I mean, you can also import USDCs, it's one for my like 3 Unreal developers. But yeah, I mean, look, and we've been getting really great feedback from our clients. For example, this person at Microsoft was like, they were discussing sketches. They were discussing 2D mock-ups and no one could reach a decision, and then they went into Shapes, and 30 minutes later, like, yeah, well, that's obviously the answer. Because that's the thing, once you're in VR, things just click. Yeah, and these are the benefits of Shapes, right? You iterate much, much faster, which saves you time and money. You go from design to a developed prototype much, much faster, which saves you time and money. And I think that just says iteration cycles again, which again, saves you time and money. And the result is of higher quality. And all those logos are at the bottom are our wonderful, wonderful clients who realize that. Just a moment of appreciation for all our wonderful clients. And yeah, that's me, that's ShapesXR, and this is a QA form.
Awesome. All right, so submit some questions, and actually I have a bunch. Michael, why don't you come up, and all of the other presenters, and we're going to run through some quick questions. I think this should work pretty good, hopefully. All right. We are going to start with questions for Alon. All right. Let's see. Hold on. All right. Where is your cloud located, US based, and how many?
Oh, love it. Great question. Okay. So we support deployment of any public cloud if you want. It can be AWS, Azure, GCP, DigitalOcean, Heroku, anything we got. We also did a partnership with Intel that we basically deployed our software on their dedicated cluster for like really, really fast performance. We're completely agnostic to that.
All right. What happens if your cloud goes down? Is it constantly streaming? Does it work offline?
Oh, fantastic question. So the fact that we have this kind of multi-cloud strategy is to make sure that the uptime is like 99.99%. So if something crashes, it's one public cloud, it automatically replicates to a different cloud.
Can I develop a full iOS app and design the interface on your platform?
So you still need to use like the native tools, like someone here mentioned Unity and like other kind of tools or ShapesXR or whatnot, but you can connect our cloud to your iOS app and then basically swap assets remotely and manage what assets comes into your iOS app.
And are there specific industry sectors that have adopted your tech more?
Yeah, we're definitely agnostic when it comes to the use case, but basically we have that bird's eye view of what people are actually building. So the big 4 use cases that we're seeing today are gaming, e-commerce, which kind of includes retail and stuff like that, marketing, and kind of training, visualization, stuff like that. But if you have a collection of 3D assets and you just need a way to kind of store and stream them, you can use it for anything.
All right, next presenter. This is actually working good.
Let's go.
Good questions.
Not bad. Thanks for the question. That's awesome.
Okay. To what extent do you believe the divergence accommodation conflict plays a part in VR motion sickness, and does this affect your results at all?
Yeah, so I think it does definitely affect the sensation. Like all of those factors, kind of like any incongruence in the what you perceive through VR can cause motion sickness within VR. This solution though is the opposite way, right? Because you're not trying to reduce motion sickness within VR. You're trying to use the VR to reduce motion sickness outside of it. So that part, even if you can't completely kind of like factor for that, is not going to be very important in this development, basically. There's a slogan I was thinking of putting inside the presentation, which was, don't ask what you can do for the VR, ask what VR can do for you.
All right. Can this motion sickness training be done with a headset alone, or is GSR required?
So yeah, that's the thing. That the GSR option is an optional thing. These GSR sensors are not that expensive, so the app can be easily supplemented with that, but it's not necessary. So if people don't have the device, they can reduce the amount, the intensity of the experience within the environment as they're experiencing. So it's not going to be as streamlined, but it's still going to be possible.
What is the current state of the research, pending grants, or sponsors?
Yeah, so this is in development, basically. Our next step is to validate it. And yes, we're looking into getting the grants we're a little bit careful with, because then that might also have, like, depending on what grant, it might have strings attached. But we are going to be looking into funding soon as well.
All right, that's it for you. Moving on. How did you find the locations from the photos?
Walking around and looking. It's more local research. Sometimes you can use Google Street View if you're lucky. We did this for the Boscania experience a lot, just to get an idea. But your local guide or your local producer that knows that region is probably your best bet.
Okay. What do you think about volumetric video?
It's coming soon.
Where can this experience be seen?
You can scan the QR codes over there. You can see find it in the Oculus Store. You can find it on YouTube. There's a QR code that takes you to the playlist of the Volvo 2 Foundation, as well as a QR code to our company. And you can just email us as well.
Awesome. That's it for you. And last one. Thank you, Joergen. Okay. Mike, what is ShapesXR's business model?
We're primarily B2B. We have both a studio license, which is for smaller studios, and an enterprise license for larger teams and organizations. If you have any more questions about that, Jordan Lipton is standing right there. Yeah, that is the man to talk to.
Does the MR feature of Shapes work on the question?
Yes, it does. It is in black and white, but it does work.
Not a question, but an endorsement. It is a million times easier to design for VR within a VR app as opposed to building 3D models on a 2D screen. You gotta support it. Thanks. Okay, and I think we got one more on motion sickness. Hold on. What's the most unexpected thing you have learned from your VR research?
Oh, wow. Everything was expected. Honestly, I think that maybe it came even before, maybe what happened that caused me to start doing this was that I was in VR, I was designing an experiment actually that was navigating the joystick, and oh my god, I got so motion sick so many times. I had to test and retest because I was coding the experiment, and yeah, there is a level of misery that is only reachable through motion sickness.
On a scale out of 1, how many?
Yeah,
how
definitely
many?
1.5 gone.
Awesome. Well, Thank you to all of our presenters. Oh,
I have one more old-fashioned question for.
Please do.
motion sickness. Why do you think the response is nausea as opposed to rashes or heat or muscle strain or anything like that?
Yeah, so there is a theory on this. It's one of those theories that is mostly accepted because we have no better explanation, but there is no possibility of collecting data for it and empirically testing it. And that theory is that we get motion sick because, so when this is the okay, non-scientific, but this is the most accepted. As a scientist, I'm a little afraid of talking. So the idea is that motion sickness happened because when people ingested toxins, that would usually change basically the density of the inner ear fluid, and that was usually a sign that, oh no, you have ingested a toxin. And that is why throwing up would be a very good idea if you have ingested a toxin. So, because usually when you get toxins, you actually feel this kind of like sensory mismatch. So yeah, they think that it's a remnant of that like long years of evolution. But with a lot of other like evolutionary biology kind of stuff, we just can't prove it. So yeah, it's hard.
Can I add something to this? Not only humans get motion sick. Every animal gets motion sick. I've seen a fish tank that was transported on a truck, and all the fish threw up because they got motion sick. So it is a very common thing among basically all animals. And
That's like a portable crop.
it's just something very basic in our brains that said if something goes wrong with the input match to what the brain thinks it does, it just says, flips the switch and says, you know what, we're going to throw up now.
That's an amazing tidbit of knowledge.
This is something I did not expect to learn.
Yeah, that honestly, that just made the trip tonight. All right, well, thank you, everyone. We're going to stick around until like 9 o'clock, so check out all the demo stations. Thank you to all of our presenters, and we'll see everyone in 2 months. Thank you.
Many years of going to the
Mark.